So these are some of the barriers to social integration, academic achievement. Again, the language barriers. Sometimes students who have lost schooling may not speak English well. Um, so I think all in all, I think have been proactive, doing this kind of training that you are taking, familiarizing yourself with the culture, the language, and so on, will help in the students and the families, or the people you are serving also responding better to you and the services you are providing. I'll just skip this, but this is, sometimes there's a huge gap, educational achievement gap in our state. Up to now, it's a real struggle. The gap between, Caucasian students and students of color is just getting wider and wider, and in spite of all that we're trying, seems to be not working. But I think, again, the best way, again, is that recognizing the cultures and really, making the students feel that this is home and this is where they're going to grow up, and making the services relevant to them and seeing the future, and this is home, and so that will help a lot in them really putting the effort. I'll skip all of this because these are general issues. Here, this is probably the most important part of the presentation, starting from this slide. And these are some issues that come up as I worked in the community and in the schools and different settings. Some issues come up that need understanding on the part of the service providers. So first of all, for the educators, especially teachers who are here, the Somali culture or the Islamic religion do emphasize education and the value of education greatly. Even in the statements of both the Quran. As an example, the first verse of the Quran that was revealed was the word read. And up to today, in the 21st century, reading is the core of our state standardized testing, reading, writing, and math. So, the issue of literacy and the value of reading is very highly emphasized. So we shouldn't assume, sometimes when we see parents not responding, that they don't care about their kids or their education. They do care. And many mothers will tell you why they took this journey that's really hardship and difficult that they went through is for the future of their children to have good education. So we should keep that in mind. But there are barriers of language, of transportation, childcare. There are many other challenges that families face. So that's something that we have to work with and trying to solve as much as we can. So if holding events, for example, for Somali families, transportation is still a concern. And also childcare. There's a large family, they have many children, so if there's nowhere to leave the kids, then the mother will not come. And generally speaking, it's mothers who pay more attention to the children, education. You are more likely to, maybe 90% of those who come to school and really are in touch with the kids will be the mothers. The fathers generally are working, or some of them are really not doing what they're supposed to do in terms of involvement and really taking care of their kids. And we really, as a community, we struggle with that, and we're really addressing it, that the father figure and the male role model need to be more involved in their family and in their child's education. But you are more likely to see women and mothers working with the kids. The dietary guideline, the pork one, we have already mentioned it. Prayers are very significant in Islam. And a Muslim is required to pray 5 times a day. And that varies with the time of the year, and it depends on the sunrise and sunset. So in a school setting or in a health setting or even in law enforcement, if somebody is in prison even, they will still need to read this prayer. It's a religious requirement. And it's really important in the religion that prayer will be the first point of accountability for the Muslim person in the day of judgment. So that's the first question they will be asked: how was your prayer? Right away. So if a person leaves it for no reason or without, it will be counted against them. It will be written against them. Some Muslim scholars even question: is the person really going to be a Muslim if they don't pray? To that extent. So it's very significant that we, at least, accommodation should be provided to to the Muslim individual. So the prayers 5 times. The first one is early morning. The second one is mid-afternoon. The third one is late afternoon. I'll give the times as well. This doesn't make sense. Sunset and night. So the morning one, let's say if we take this time of the year as an example, like today, for example, the morning one is maybe around 4:45 a.m. That's the kind of the starting point. And then it continues until sunrise. So sunrise, I think right now is around 6:10, maybe. I didn't look at the calendar today, but maybe around 6, a little after 6. So, so that's the window of time for that prayer. So as to schools, it doesn't matter. They're still at home. Then the next prayer starts around 1:10, like this time of the year, and continues until, let's say, a little after 5. Let's say, around 5:15 maybe, within that range. So from 1:10 until 5:15, let's say. That's the window of time for the second prayer. The third one is from 5:15 until sunset. And sunset is now around 8, a little after 8. So so it's a couple of hours. And then the fourth prayer is exactly at sunset. Whenever the sun sets, that's the time of the fourth prayer of the day. And the fifth prayer is late in the night, let's say an hour and a half after sunset. At this time of the year, it's around, so the sunset now will be around, let's say 8:10. And then the night prayer will be around 10 p.m., close to 10 p.m. Yes?
What age would children begin to
Pray.
be first independent?
Yeah. Initially, it's children are encouraged to start the prayer at the age of 7, and then emphasize, for them to get used to it. And generally speaking, just to go back a little bit, in most of the Islamic religious teachings, accountability begins with puberty. So once the person matures, then that's when they become, accountable for all the, the religious obligations, like the prayer, the fasting, the women wearing the hijab. So, this is when most of them really become, like, written against them. As a child, right now, 3 or 4 or 5 years, if they don't pray, no problem. It's not going to be written against them. So most of the religious rulings start with puberty. That's when accountability begins. So 7, the prayer is emphasized at 7, but once they, the person matures, then there is no excuse. Once they attain the age of puberty, then there is no excuse. The only excuse for prayer is like maybe you oversleep and not intentionally, avoiding the alarm clock or something, and then maybe forgetting. Let's say, you forget completely. But, working or going to school or all this will not be legitimate excuses within the religious reference. So it's really significant. Yeah, most likely. It depends on, of course, the family upbringing for the child. Some families are very particular. They, really emphasize their children to request, for example, to be given a place to pray. So as a school, just see who approaches you. Like if a child makes a request and said, I want to perform the prayer, then just avoiding, providing that accommodation. But it's not for you to go out of the way and find out who prays and who doesn't, and So, but as the need comes and the families, sometimes the parent will come and talk to you and tell you, I need my child to pray in school. So, if you can provide space for them. So, but it will be more significant, especially middle high school. Of course, they have no excuse. The younger ones, still they have that leeway. But once they mature, then it's important that they pray. But again, I must emphasize again. As in any religion, there are some who will be observant of all religious requirements. There are some who are on and off. So, sometimes the students may be going through those kind of issues as well. But as a religious requirement, it's required. If they don't pray, it's written against them. In the Islamic belief, there are 2 angels that are with the person all the time, and they're writing everything the person does, good or bad. So the day they don't pray or the prayer they miss is written in the record book. And on the day of judgment, if they don't repent or if there is no along the way, then it will be counted against them. So So that accountability system is in place all the time, and there's always reference to be, for especially kids, we tell them the angels are writing or whatever. Don't lie, don't steal or don't do something. And so it's a very strong part of the Islamic religion, that awareness and sensitivity to the two angels being present with you all the time. Yeah.
How long do the prayers take?
Yeah. The actual prayer itself lasts about 5 minutes, but before the prayer, there is ablution or washing, pre-washing. And for the prayer to be valid, there has to be ablution in place. So, and the ablution means washing the hands, the face, the arms up to the elbows, both arms, wiping over the hair, and then wiping or washing the feet. So, with that ablution plus the prayer, it could extend, the time could extend a little bit more. However, within the Islamic religion, a person can pray with valid ablution if it's still, after doing the ablution, if it's still intact and it's not broken, one can do several prayers with it. However, what I will point to teachers especially is that in the Islamic religion, if the child, in the morning before they left home, if they made the ablution and they put their socks on, they don't have to wash their feet. They can wipe over their feet. So the washing, instead of washing, which can maybe sometimes lead to misunderstanding, and so they can wipe over their socks. So that sometimes the kids may not be aware and they may not know. So in that case, you may need to contact the imam, for example, the MCC, or somebody who's knowledgeable in the faith to tell or teach them or something. But that's some accommodation. If the washing is difficult, they are too young to raise their feet and wash it in the sink or something. There could be issues. So that wiping is an accommodation in the religion. Sometimes the kid may not know and they may want to wash. Then in that case, you as an educator can contact us and we'll tell them and their family or tell their parents, and we'll go around that. Yeah. So the prayers are really significant, and then the mid-afternoon prayer. That's the one that we're most concerned about, which is its time ranges from noon in winter, for example, and in the summer, like at this time of the year, it starts at about a little after 1:10, and continues until 5. So the window of time is huge. But what I would like to emphasize is that the Islamic prayer have a window of time. That window of time in the summer is long. It could be several hours, maybe up to 4 hours sometimes. In the winter, it's very short. It could be just 2 hours. So that means there will be an urgency on the part of the Muslim to do the prayer because the time is so short in winter. And then when the window is long, then it can be delayed. For example, if your school ends at 2, you can, you don't have to, you can tell the child can still carry the prayer at home because there's still a lot of time left. So keeping that in mind, and then sometimes too, students may leave the class and stay out for a long time, 20 minutes, half an hour. Then in that case, then you should know that they are not really, they must be, they're doing something else or goofing around or something. So you knowing the time and all this helps you also to keep the kids in check, because sometimes they can use it as an excuse to, to stay out or to even leave the class. And then keeping the time also, knowing the time also is important. And there's a calendar that publishes the whole year. So that calendar is good and handy for people who work with Muslims a lot to have it handy, so you know what time, the window of time, and what time it starts. And also sometimes some students also tend to request for the prayer right away when the time comes. That also is not necessary. They can delay it. Let's say they're in a test or they're in the middle of a class. You can say, let's the class finish as long as the window of time is still there. So that you can negotiate and you can tell them. Not just schools, even in a hospital setting or in a prison setting. Sometimes if somebody says right away I have to do it, I think you need to be aware of the window of time. And the prayer with the shortest time is the sunset one. That one in particular, it has to be done within half an hour, 40-minute time frame. but the others usually it tends to extend a little bit more. So this will help you sometimes to to be in a position to make things work, because sometimes you're in the middle of a test and a child says, I have to pray right now. You can say, no, Muhammad, I can see there's still more time. The test will be over in half an hour or in 1 hour. You can go after that, and so it helps. I would say, again, speaking from the constitutional point of view, Muslims or accommodating the Muslim prayer, for the child who requests, they have that right. I wouldn't say the school should set a room, because it depends on the space. Sometimes you may not have space. But the good thing about the Muslim prayer is it can be done in any place. So if a school has, let's say, a vacant room that's not in use, and they designate that this is the quiet room, or that time nobody is there. So if a child comes, you direct them there. That's fine. Some schools don't have that space, so they could use even an office, let's say an administrator's office, or somebody who's not in their room. If the classroom, if the kids are on break, let's say, or they could be, so it could be done anywhere. So I'm not saying they have to provide and they have to designate a space and go through that hardship, but any way that this could be accommodated, that 5 minutes that the child is doing the prayer, just do it to the best that you can. Yeah. Yes, please. The main idea is that the school is not promoting it. Staff, even Muslim staff, cannot promote it. But again, that child who's in your class or in your school has that right to. So how do you provide that service? That's the point that we're trying to.